Welcome to Art Talk Music. My guests today are the great Michael Anthony and my man John Maestas. Now, for those of you who don't know about Michael Anthony, he was a studio session guitar player in Los Angeles in the 60s and the 70s into the early 80s and made a name for himself on the Carol Burnett Show, playing behind people like Tony Bennett, played with Miles Davis. This man has done so much. You might recognize his guitar playing from many, many themes, musics like the Dukes of Hazzard, the original Spider-Man, the Flintstones melody. That's right, that's him on guitar on the original cartoon recording of that theme song, as well as he's playing baritone ukulele on that Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid famous song called Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. He's amazing, and he is the most generous soul that both John and I have come to know, and just a pool of wisdom about music, about life, and how to be an amazing person, guitarist, and man. He certainly has done that for both John and I. And we're so grateful to have him. And this happened to happen in conjunction back in July of 2018, right around the time that I started this podcast, with a show that John and I put on honoring our teacher, Michael Anthony. That's right, we put on a show, we produced it ourselves, and we presented a show at the Outpost Performance Space in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We brought together his trio with the great Milo Jaramillo and the drummer Andy Poling, and we paid homage to him, played some of the songs that we first learned from him in high school at Manzano High School into some of the great songs that we love of guitarists, because it certainly was a night paying homage to our teachers and our masters of the guitar. It was a wonderful experience, and to sit down afterwards and kind of digest everything was awesome. And that's what this conversation is. Now, this episode happened to be one of the early episodes of mine. And so it happened with totally different audio equipment than what I'm using right now. So it's not so great. And I have to give a huge thank you to Mr. Thomas Primizek for coming in and helping me out with making this audio really listenable. So you'll have to bear with us, but certainly it's a lot better than it was. I hope you guys enjoy this wonderful conversation that we had back in July of 2018 with the great Michael Anthony and my man John Maestas. Now, we also go into a little bit of detail about Michael Anthony signing on with Bubble Bath Records and, of course, Bubble Bath Records putting out all of the backlog of all of Michael's CDs, and they're available now, thanks to Bubble Bath Records, everywhere. So I'm going to put some links within the description of this podcast so you can check that out, as well as enjoy some of the music of the great Michael Anthony. And I'll end this podcast with one of my favorite numbers from one of his early CDs. So we'll get to that when we're there. But for now, sit back and enjoy this episode with the great Michael Anthony and John Maestas. Welcome, guys. It's so good to have you guys on. I'm so grateful to have my best friend Jono and my dear Uncle Mike. What's going on, guys?
Honored to be here.
Yeah.
Great to be with you guys. I get to spend as much time with you as I have this week.
Yeah, we've had a lot of cool meetups together.
Yeah, with as busy as everybody is. That's just awesome.
That's right, man. It's been a wonderful time to be able to not just hang and get together, but also do that with something to do specifically, like getting ready for that concert that we did, and even just getting together to practice the tunes you and I. It was a trip seeing the evolution of a small little idea that was just a conversation Jono and I had to. Right. Then you just being like, all right, we got an idea. Let's see what tunes we got. And you pulled out like 18 tunes. The first day it was awesome.
Overkill.
Yeah. And of course, for those listening, we're talking about the wonderful show that we just put on, which is Michael Anthony Lineage concert. And Jono came in town from New Orleans, and you've been living out there for 6 years, Jono.
Yeah.
And of course, our dear Uncle Mike is someone who I remember the last time we gave him homage was when you put on a show at Scala when you came back from New Orleans, and you called a couple of people out and celebrated Michael.
That's right.
And that was really cool.
That's right. What was that, 5 years ago or something?
About 3 years ago.
Yeah, maybe less, I
3 years
think.
ago.
Because 6 years ago or it might have even been 7 years ago now, was when you opened up this thing that I talked about.
That's right.
Was when you opened
I
up the New
remember
Mexico Jazz Festival, the Summerfest, and
Right.
we played the Outpost alongside you. And so that was the kind of the
Really,
first.
Isn't that like starting this week?
The summer
That's right,
series.
that's
yeah,
right, that's
back over
right.
there.
That's why I was also so worried that Tom Goronick at the Outpost wasn't going to have the space available because it was so close to everything. But it was so awesome that it worked out, man.
He was so
and,
cool. He was just
He was
wonderful.
amazing.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Tom Goronick, like I've learned so much from him, but
Yeah.
he's also just such a generous soul. Always has been.
He's a master and a prince at taking care of that role.
That's right.
Yeah.
So right, man.
Prince Goralnik.
And
yeah.
Gijao, we call him
Prince Gijao.
Master Tom.
Master Tom. And Prince Goralnik are one and the same.
Yes.
Yeah. Nah, he really did. He did so many things to help make the show go smooth and helping direct, how to get the word out about it, providing the space, the time,
Yeah, man.
all of the logistics that went behind the scenes happening for that show. He really helped
And
you to do that.
and he helped out more so in just the amazing job that he does in running that place. But Alicia was the one that gave us like the secret codes to really unlock, the levels to be able to like execute
Now, is she
an
the
all-around
one that
successful
was
show.
ill because you were communicating with somebody that was on the Facebook but it didn't identify?
That's right. That's right. It
I
was
had a
Alicia.
feeling it was Alicia.
That's right. It was
She
Alicia.
what she
Yeah.
could
Right.
do what
And she had a concert the week before our show where she had to perform, and I was like, and she was like, I'm already coming down with this cold,
Oh, wow, yeah.
and so.
And she's a sweetheart.
She's amazing.
She's been there a lot of years now.
Oh my goodness, yeah, man. She was there when I first started taking classes there, as well as, obviously once I started helping them out by setting up their stuff during the week for their classes and taking it down and setting up the professional drums and all the nice equipment for the band that would come and play that night, That was such an experience. But, yeah, thanks to Alicia. That's right, man.
Yes, indeed, Alicia.
And Tom, just for, his generous spirit, man. It's like he kept telling me, like, the only thing that he was bummed out about was that he didn't have something to do with it. Like, he wasn't putting it on.
Oh, that was a nice thing
He's
to
so nice.
say.
And he kept saying it, and so at the end of it, it was just like, the next one, we'll have to do with him, or, maybe the next one will be somewhere else. But I mean, Tom was amazing.
Well, we
And,
had many, many beautiful comments from people. One from that guy Mike from Taos.
oh, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And he says to me, I was, wow, you came all the way from Taos. I always appreciate it. I mean, even when I play with John Rangel up there, he'll come down and he listens, he supports music, deeply. But anyway, so I said, oh, Mike, thanks for coming. All these, you guys, He says, I feel like this was like in the 20s when people got so much for their money. He says, my $25 was nothing compared to what you guys gave us. That was his comment.
Wow,
How
that's
beautiful,
awesome.
man.
Yeah, that was nice. Huh?
Goodness.
He's always been such a generous person, man. You're right.
Right.
He's an
Him as
amazing
well,
music
yeah.
supporter
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And he's also one of the guys that has some of the most genuine creative compliments about the moments that he's
He does.
experiencing.
He does.
He's never the guy that makes it sound like it's a comment by rote, and it's just incredible.
Anyways, I think something that the show definitely inspired me to want to do. Like I said during the show, was make it a habit.
Yeah.
Make it a habit to do it. At least once a year, once every other year, however often we can get to do it. And so.
And you can change the name of the concert. It
Oh,
doesn't always, I don't expect it to be about me. It should be about the three of us, or whatever is the spirit of that particular day.
Yeah, man. And like we've been brainstorming about, and another comment that a lot of people said after the show was that people really wanted to hear that recorded.
Yes,
And get a
I got
CD.
that as well from people.
And so why not, do that, go into the studio, write some really cool arrangements of all original music as John was suggesting, which is a wonderful idea,
Sure.
and then do a concert. That would be awesome, man.
Right.
And maybe just have it be just three guitars the whole show. I mean, it
Well,
can do whatever.
Again,
But-
I was extremely impressed with the way we sounded together on the radio show, on Glenn's show.
Yeah, we.
It was like, we didn't rehearse any of that.
No.
And that was just all of our years together. We called the tune, and just the way everybody took a role. And then as somebody shifted solos, then the roles
We
shifted.
changed,
and
yeah.
Everybody just did that without, a
So
thought.
naturally.
Yeah, it was very
right.
natural, yeah.
Yeah, man.
So I like the three guitars. That should be part of whatever recording we do, and it could be part trio like that, and then part including other
I agree. I
other
dig.
instruments.
Yeah, I can really dig that idea. So, John, what's Bubble Bath Records been up to, my man? How's everything in New Orleans going? Tell us a little bit about you.
Bubble Bath Records is going great, strong. I just have to say that I'm super honored to have both of you, my best friend Claudio and my mentor Uncle Mike, on the label. You guys are artists on the label.
It's just our honor as well, my man.
It
Yes.
is incredible.
And not only that, but I'm honored and impressed that you said the other night you have 24 people on?
21.
21.
That's crazy, right?
That's
21 different
amazing.
artists on the roster.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
It's a lot of work and it's a lot of fun. So it's like, it doesn't really feel like work. It
Yeah.
feels like just natural progression and getting bigger and better and getting truer to our concept and our ethos and letting the world know what we're doing and
Sure.
showing what we're doing for the good of independent creative artists now, But right now we're getting ready to launch our Kickstarter, and that's going to go towards helping to fund for publicity and PR, all for the 9 or 10 new albums that are coming out this fall.
That's awesome.
So we launched that in a week. We have our promo going. You can see we've been filming lots of videos of the artists and the people in the community in New Orleans that have seen Bubble Bath's influence and impact on the community. And I mean, just to see that has been really, really incredibly humbling and rewarding. Because the people really notice. They're like, man, when I saw Bubble Bath, the first thing I saw was a sticker on a street sign or something. And then
After Mardi Gras.
after Mardi Gras. And there were a lot of stickers up there at Mardi Gras. But yeah, they're like, I started with a sticker and then I started seeing your name in the local publications on the schedule of some shows going down. Then I started seeing this person's connected to Bubble Bath, that person's connected to Bubble Bath. Then I started getting this idea like you guys are all over the place. And it's like, yeah, that's what we're doing, And it's just inspiring to these people that there's a group of creative individuals that are willing to support one another and bring independent original art up and into the public eye. And for me to hear that from them is inspiring.
That's awesome.
It's just like, wow, I didn't think that this would have an impact on people like that, but it keeps coming back around and reciprocating, and that's just feeding me and fueling my fire to keep it going.
Yeah, right. Like what wonderful treasures you get in return for the hard work that you put in. Is like that recognition. It's like that is first and foremost like the first most success, because then after that is all the other successes of what continues after all that hard work and all of that awareness of what the label is and who's associated with the label and what badass artists and what they're doing and what Bubble Bath is doing for the community.
I think more than anything, more than the notoriety and the respect or all of the good words that people say, it's nice to know for me that the artists appreciate what we're doing for them and that they recognize that it's like, this would have been a lot harder without you guys, so I really appreciate it. And it's like, cool, man, I'm glad. We're helping out. That's what we want to be doing, is making a difference.
And you guys are absolutely making much more of a difference, I think, than record labels were doing. Obviously back in the day when you were in the studios, Uncle Mike, but even just recently to what record labels do and what you guys as an independent record label do, where you guys arm the artist with the tools to take the career of their desiring into their own hands and learn how to do their own copyright, learn how to register their songs and how to get publishing stuff in order and how to register with BMI or ASCAP and understand what all that stuff means. And I mean, continue learning about it. There's never I learned about it. No, I'm continuing to learn about it. And
Sure.
Getting more awareness about it,
And it's true that it's come up many steps from there. In the early days, you thought, well, if somebody was with a record label, that meant it did mean a certain amount of clout and a certain amount of upscaling in your notoriety. However, after talking to many artists, including my mentor Howard, hearing horror stories of problems that he had with Capitol Records, and on some level, he was almost treated by them, the corporation, as slave labor. That's an exaggeration, but in a way, they kind of almost didn't respect him. And he ended up they were sending him bills that he owed them money and all kinds of stuff, and they made them believe at first that they were taking care of him and producing his stuff, and all of a sudden They
So
were telling
crazy.
him that he owed them a whole bunch of money.
Well, see, that story I hear echoed in so many people's experience with being signed to a major label.
Yes.
And it can come off. Here's the thing: is like, if you're gonna get signed to a record label, congratulations first. You've taken your art and your skills and your craft to a level to where other people recognize what a talent you are. That's great. But if you don't have the other side of the knowledge to know what kind of a deal you're walking into, those record labels kind of bank on that you don't know. And so you've made it the first step. Your art is great. You've caught people's attention. They want to sign you. But what are the details of that contract? And a lot of people go into that business meeting saying, I'm done. I've made it. I'm going to sign this contract. I'm on a label, and we got a 4-record deal in 2 years. Cool. I don't even care about the percentage. Just give me that upfront money, and I'll make these records. It's all about the music.
Yep.
And then all that fine print will come back to haunt you.
That's right.
Well, it's like a college loan.
It's like a college loan, yeah.
It's like a college loan. That's true. The other thing that comes up with the, excuse me, the early days and the record companies is that they sign people with to a certain image that they have of that person, of that artist.
That's right.
And they then expect that artist to just fill that image
To uphold it.
and nothing else.
Absolutely.
They don't allow much creativity on the artist's part. That they heard the artist perform in a certain color, let's say, or certain genre, and they bought that, and they don't want anything else. And the artist got a lot more to offer.
Yeah.
So then they feel imprisoned.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. Happens all the time. I mean, I got to meet this really great singer that I love and admire. His name is Bilal. He's a great R&B vocalist. And he was talking about the time that he had an entire record that he made, recorded in the studio under this label deal, and he was going a little bit of a different direction, kind of stepped out of the traditional R&B sort of thing, was trying a couple of different musical styles. And it was an awesome record, but the record company just straight shelved it. Said, well, we don't know what to do with this. We can't market this. This isn't what we signed you up as. So no one's going to hear it. And he had to end up just putting it away and wasn't able to do nothing with it.
Yeah.
Fast forward 15 years later, this record comes out because, that was in the 90s when he made it. And then now, around 2015 or so, I guess, 2000s, whatever, he ended up having the power to release it on his own. And people were like, this is an incredible record. When did this come out? And he says, well, it was supposed to be out 15 years ago.
Right.
Wow, yeah.
But this is what I was doing. This is already 15 years old,
Yeah,
me.
I think a lot of artists had that. Howard, I heard things from Howard that he had recorded that got shelved. That was amazing stuff. And that happens a lot.
I mean, Howard definitely had that too, where he was, fitting in that niche of something you've always explained to us, which was like that pop, jazz, fusion guitar player, right?
Yeah.
And that was what he was with when he had that record
Right,
deal.
and that's what that drove
was
him nuts
early.
because they boxed him into that.
Right.
Yeah, he occasionally he would come up with an arrangement, and he would I would hear from him. He was even going to a psychiatrist at the time because it
to
was
deal with
driving
it.
him nuts dealing with this stuff.
man.
Yeah,
Wow.
and he said I showed him this thing, and I even recorded it on my own. And their reply to him was, like you said, they can't do anything. But here's the word they use. They use, this is neither fish nor fowl, by their standards.
Neither
They
fish
called
nor
it
fowl.
neither
It's
fish nor
not.
fowl.
It's not
In other
good or
words, They
bad.
couldn't identify it as a this or a that.
Oh, I see.
They couldn't identify it as red or blue.
I see.
It was some color they don't know. So we're not going to market this.
Wow. Same thing.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
See, and hearing so many stories like that, especially from those days, from the days of the 60s and 70s, recording golden era, and how artists got taken advantage of by the label. That's an inspiring sentiment for me to come back and say, okay, well, we're starting a record label about independent artists and new creative original stuff happening. We want to make sure to prepare the artists for things like that, situations like that.
Yeah.
obviously from Bubble Bath, we're not going to be putting any artist in a situation like this. You know, we're not going to be making those type of decisions or
Not with
holding
you-
anybody in
not with
sort
you
of.
at the head
I
of
know,
the
right?
helm.
Not with you on board.
Not on your watch.
Not on my watch. That's for certain. And with the other 4 that are involved with me, the other 4 co-founders, they're
Yeah.
not about that at all.
Same, man. Alex Peñaso, Elijah Carroll, Mrs. Violeta del Rio, and Pat. What's Pat's last name?
Patricia Moscardo.
There we go.
Yep, those are the other 4 that run Bubble Bath with me.
Wow.
But they're all common-minded in that way.
We love you guys.
All love to the Bubble Bath crew. And let me say, we want to make sure that if an artist gets some attention from a major label through their involvement with Bubble Bath, we just hope that their time spent with us on the label has helped to prepare them to make those decisions and walk into those boardroom meetings more aware of what's going down in the label deal. What are the fine print? What are the little nitty-gritty details that are there in that deal that they need to be aware of? And that's what I want to provide everyone that comes into the label. It's knowing more about the business that you're involved in and have more control, have more say in what you want this deal to become. And if something isn't right for you, that you have this sense of feeling like your voice matters and you are well informed enough to speak on it without just going in cold and having to say, well, I guess, you know,
Yeah.
all right, here's my signature and
Yeah.
I guess wherever it goes.
Take it and use it however you want. Right, no, yeah. You're empowering the artist. And going back to what I was saying earlier, I mean, that's so unique in today's world of record labels. I mean, I hope that there are other independent record labels that are doing what you guys do. I'm sure there are, but I mean, it's something that that educates us today. That that empowers us as well, because we're in way more of a DIY community for musicians financially than we were back in the day. I mean, back in the day, Napster came around and just totally destroyed the music industry. And today, what is happening, with YouTube and then with streaming and all these other things. I mean, it's such a new frontier. It's such a new era of musicians making money, and as a record label, empowering the artist is something so. It's awesome, man. I mean, I'm grateful for it. I learn all the time about it, and you're helping me out. Eli's helping me out. Everyone helps me out with ideas, bouncing off. Thoughts about how I should do this, how I should register the album, if it should just be the actual sound recordings or if it should be the individual songs as compositions and stuff like that, and what the differences between things like that. Like those are actual questions that we deal with as people nowadays releasing music and putting it out and learning how to really arm yourself so that you can pick up the royalties later, or even just understanding that there is a second party company that you hire to then go find all of those royalties anywhere that song is played around the world. And so, artists don't think about this kind of stuff. Uncle Mike, it's like, you were in school for 2 years, for a 2-year degree that took you, I think, 6 years, you said, right?
5 years.
Right, 5 years, right.
Yeah.
And so,
I was always on the road.
yeah, and in the nearly 6 years that I was there for a 4-year degree, it was like none of the things that really aid yourself as an artist to make a living were things that were brought up. And granted, I can't put the blame on the university system, but I am highlighting that it's awesome that you who had a relationship with the schooling and then totally went your own way are now in that route of doing things your own way, having this record label where you're doing it your own way and encouraging other people to do it their own way. And that's awesome, man, And I'm super proud to know you as well as see the evolution of that,
Having said that, not anybody can do that.
That's right.
He's amazingly talented and intelligent.
Oh, shucks,
You
thanks,
were a 4.0 student at Monsanto. Do I remember that right?
Yeah.
That's part of it. You do have that.
That's right.
So people who don't have that wouldn't be able to step into that, into those shoes and do that. So that's why people, I made the joke the other day, I went to school to learn to spell experience.
Right.
Because it's really the experience, what I learned on the street is what I really learned,
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, and I learned some stuff in college, and I learned some academic stuff and some things here and there that actually did sharpen me in some way so that I can talk to people other than musicians. And, those things.
Civilians.
But I won't even say sane people anymore because they're just crazy.
We're all insane a little
Yeah,
bit.
we're all crazy in our own way, as Paramahansa Yogananda used to say. But, we're all nuts.
But you know, the thing I think is crazy. What I've been fortunate enough to have, like the book smart side of things. I've had people challenge me, both in academics and on the real world experience side of things. You know, so as much as I was a good student or trying to pay attention in school, I had my friend group who were there. They were always pushing the envelope. Oh, I'm reading Sartre now. You know, or I'm reading this person, James Joyce, or I'm reading, you know, Odysseus, like the story of the Odyssey, or
It's
whatever.
wonderful that they were intellectually motivated that way.
Right, I feel very fortunate
At
for
that
that.
age.
They were into it, and
Yeah.
that got me into it. And then when it came to music, I had you, Claudio, and you were doing stuff that it was left field of what I was working on, and that really inspired me to grow and expand. And of course, you, Uncle Mike, what you were showing me on the gig too, it was like, oh, this is real world experience. Go out there and like really be challenged to break out of your own box and go beyond what you know in order to put yourself in the position to serve the music or to serve that conversation at the dinner table when people are talking above what you know. But, you know,
Exactly.
just to constantly keep growing and building and going past those internal barriers that we put up for ourselves, you know.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah.
It helps to have people around. I mean, I was fortunate to have them.
Takes a community,
Absolutely
man.
correct, man. Being around a lot of people who are inspired and motivated, you know.
Mhm.
And I felt like fortunate that I grew up in Los Angeles. And heck, I mean, all the greatest players in the world were there.
And you had
I mean,
people
of course, they're in
underneath-
New York as well. I'm sorry.
Right. No, and I was just going to talk about people that, you know, were around you and that were inspired by you or that maybe you inspired. Was someone like Barry Zweig, you know,
Oh, yeah, he
Right.
always tells that story.
I know,
We were
yeah.
just in college then.
in college,
And I was
right?
about a
right,
year or so older than him.
Right.
You know, and I didn't realize that I was helping him in the manner that I did, but he's come back many times and told many people that he felt like I took him under my wing, you know.
Yeah, man. And I'm
he's
sure,
awesome. He's an awesome jazz musician.
and a sweetheart of a guy, super funny,
Sweetheart
man.
of a guy.
Yeah. But, you know, and I'm sure all the other amazing musicians that you grew up around, or at least were surrounded by amidst, you know, growing up in that.
Yeah, well,
in
I
that
was
scene.
able to, what helped me there was, again, I think I mentioned to you guys, I worked in a restaurant for 3 years and I liked cooking and all these things, going to high school, being on the gym team, did all these things. But I didn't know in that early stage what if I would be good enough or what the standards would be what would be required of me. And so then, as I started getting out in the world, in that particular city, everybody was like wonderfully, you know, talented
Receptive.
musicians and receptive and talented and how shall I say, developed as musicians. So I got to learn right away. Oh, this is what I need to know. I need to be good at this. If I got that from a horn player, I get this from a piano player, and then on this guitar, well, he's got chops that I don't know about. You know, and that kind of thing. And hey, I'm sitting next to this rock player. I'm sitting next to Larry Carlton, you know, whatever. And he taught me how to bend a string. You know. So being around people like that, I was very fortunate. So yeah, I'm thankful for that.
That's so neat. man.
Yeah.
That's incredible. To be sitting next to Larry Carlton in
Oh,
the studio,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
got to be
yeah.
an awesome
That
experience.
was great stuff, man. Yeah, just to see him flow and do his thing. You know? Yeah, he was kind of he was my pop hero, my pop guitar hero. And when I was called upon to play in sessions and play fills or whatever style, he's the one I modeled after.
Oh,
And wow. I didn't steal his phrases directly, but it was the kind of phrasing he did that I modeled for myself because I liked that. It was musical.
Yeah.
He always said something musical and intelligent, you know, and meaningful. So that's where I modeled my pop playing when it came upon me.
You know, more often than not, I've come into the realization these days that what you don't say almost means more than what you do say.
Exactly.
And especially in a musical setting like that, when the red light's on.
Mm-hmm.
I have had so many experiences where I won't call anybody out, but I've been in the studio where someone who is very, very talented and can play circles around everyone else in the studio does, and it ends up not really being the right thing for that session, for that music.
It doesn't make that music. It just makes that person stating over and over again who they are and where they are in their development.
Right.
That's all it states.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible thing to hear, even from you talking about, Larry Carlton's phrasing.
Yeah.
And how his space, I mean, just the word phrasing implies space, implies having something to say, giving it space for the listener to absorb it, and then 1-2 punch. Come back with something else.
As guitar players, especially in jazz, that we're all following the horn players, and we're all wanting to be able to play a lot of notes and play fast, and be able to do that. We're ever envious of great tenor players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, as Larry was around for a while, after he'd been around about 5 years, and I'd run into him in a session, he says to me one day, and I think I might have mentioned this to you one of the other days we were hanging out. He said, Mike, he says, the more I'm playing, the less notes I play. So he came to find that out. And he was never terrible at overloading. But even with that, he found that the less was more.
Straight
And
from
being
him.
pertinent to what the song was saying and the music was saying was major.
Yeah.
That's what was major. Yeah.
That's more beautiful. I mean, it's like anyone can play a lot of notes, but to play just the right notes and the few notes in the right place
Yes.
and the right feeling
Right.
is much more, significant for him and his experience with saying something than just, doing a lot of stuff. That's awesome.
Basically, he came to realize, as we have all come to realize too, is that there's two roles, well, many roles, but
Sure.
two basic roles. You're either a soloist or you're an accompanist. And when you're in the recording setting, and someone is a vocalist, you're in the accompaniment role.
Yeah.
You're not in the soloist role, so you're not filling all those spaces with,
Big time.
razzle dazzle. You're filling it with being subservient to what that person is doing, And a lot of people, some people never come to understand that. But there are basically two roles. You're an accompanist or a soloist.
You've taught that a lot to both me and John, man, and it's been a wonderful thing to learn as a working guitar player. Someone in town who helped me and John out also a lot is Patty Littlefield, and I had a duo with her where I play, and I'd ask her advice on how I should approach it or what I should play. Whenever she'd say, "All right, honey, do your thing," how am I gonna play? It's like the harmony drops, and then I gotta play some solos and carry all that stuff. But I mean, that's you arming us with the tools, and then us going out into the real world with those tools and learning how to play both the accompanying role as well as when that door opens up, even within that accompanying role, in that set, in that song, take a solo and be able to do it tastefully, and then just be able to fill both roles out if you're going to the studio.
Back.
Yeah, man, and step back.
back.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right, man. Yeah. John does that a lot nowadays, more so than I do in New Orleans, which is awesome to see him do. I forget the name of the famous musician that's a writer guy that hired you a lot for a lot of sessions and stuff like that. But that's always awesome to see, and I always think whenever he tells me about, I'm not sure if he tells you about all the sessions that he does or not, but I always think, oh man, he's over there making Uncle Mike proud, because he's doing all those different roles. It's like whatever the song needs, he's serving the song and
That's
he's
great.
playing the gig.
And that's a wonderful experience, isn't it? Isn't it a gratifying experience? Because like you say, you feel yourself growing and expanding in that manner that, I have more than one idea for a given tune, depending on what style or genre or what the mood is, etc.
Yeah.
Tempo, all these things. I have more than one idea. There's more than one thing I can do.
Right.
Yeah.
And kind of feeling like feeling out the artist who you're working for, what their direction is.
Right.
And I feel like one of the things for me that I've really, really started honing into that you had mentioned to us as younger kids, which was be sensitive to the moment. Be open to what the music is telling you and be sensitive. And I've been really, really noticing this working with other artists, which is you could have a cool idea, but it could be the wrong thing for that artist.
And you're dying to play it someplace. when you're younger and less experienced, in this particular field, you're just dying to find a place to put this thing, and it just really doesn't go anywhere.
It just doesn't go. It makes them uncomfortable.
There's this mental trick. You got to say, I got to let go of this.
I've even come to the point too where it's like, ooh, I got an idea. Maybe I should not say anything. Because just the idea, the act of saying, oh, I got an idea of how to change it up or spice it up, makes that person be like, well, I kind of already liked the spice and flavor that it was. I didn't see anything that we needed to do.
So why are you trying to fix what's not broken?
Exactly. now that energy's all different in the room, everybody's off of whack, and it's crazy. So being sensitive and knowing when to speak up and when to just say, I'm gonna just sit in my role. If that idea doesn't come out on this track, that's totally cool.
Right.
The better thing to do, to be in tune with, is that the energy in the room is right and the artist feels great about what's happening.
And they're happy.
Hey, you shouldn't throw that idea away. That idea is actually a wonderful idea somewhere. And the thing is, the longer you're in this business, you don't want to throw that idea away. You got your file.
Mm-hmm.
You got your file. Like composers.
You always talk to us about the file.
You got your file. And then one day, if you're around this thing long enough, you're gonna be on a session that's like, there it is. This is the perfect place for this idea I've been wanting to use for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It's it's been cool. I've had some really cool sessions, actually. This guy who I really love working with, his name is Alex Ebert, and he's the lead singer for Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. That's the band that he was with for a long time.
That's right.
And he's doing a solo album. I got to do some recording for a TV show that he was scoring and stuff. And he was really cool. He'd say, all right, I got this thing. Throw on an idea, and it would be like total scratch, an idea on a piano. He'd say, I don't know, what do you want to do with this? And I'd say, well, I hear a lot of things. Like, where could we go with this? What's the scene look like, for the TV show stuff? And he pulls up the scene. And it's like, oh, okay, 3 of those ideas that I had are not going to work for this, But he gives me so much freedom to experiment and try to capture the vibe and see what's... He said, well, okay, try that idea. I tried that one. He said, let's go left of there. Okay, we'll go left. Now let's go south of there. Let's go a little different.
Now, what does that mean, left and south?
Well,
how do we interpret that?
I guess he was kind of telling me with those directions, he's giving me cardinal directions, but expecting me to take it in musically to a different feeling space. So if he's got something on the piano, let's say it's kind of like a couple arpeggiated chords, and I start playing strummed, long, big whole chords behind that. Let the piano ruminate, and I just got the big chord strum foundation.
Texture.
Right, that texture. Then he'd say, all right, let's go left of there. Let's go somewhere different.
So what would left mean?
So that now becomes my interpretation, right? And if you tell me to go left, I'm going to go way left. That's just to see how far left you want me to go.
Exactly.
So, I think at that point I thought maybe I'll do something more atmospheric and put on a pedal with lots of reverb and some delay and give this almost like a cloud above this and give something that feeds back on itself and it doesn't even sound like a guitar anymore. And he'll say, yeah, that's a little too far left. I need you to come back south and come back over here. And I'm like, okay, all right, we'll go from there. But he gives me so much freedom that it's really fun to be working with him.
That's a wonderful thing, yeah. And what would south mean?
If you're in the South, right? What does it mean when you're...
Well, one of the sessions I was on, the guy came in, he was producing, and I guess it wouldn't hurt to say it was Herb Alpert. We were at A&M Records, and we went in, and he wanted to just experiment. So I remember, union gig, and we walk in, and we're all set up, ready to go. But later on, we all looked at each other with this. It was talking about interpretation and what one word could mean to so many different people.
Right.
He walks in the room and he says, okay, guys, he says, we have the chart, and he says, I want you to give me purple. And we're like,
What? can cuss on the mic.
what purple means to me, and then what purple means to him. I'm like, you know, whoa, that was, you know, we've had some things with directors and composers and stuff that use terms
Wow.
and you know, are not connected in that sense, you know. But give me purple. And not only that, but what does he mean by purple?
Exactly. Well, that's a real thing. Is like you know, even little kids. I remember teaching some little kids, and they say, "How did you know that the red that I see is the red that you see?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, that's a very valid question.
That's a valid point.
It doesn't necessarily line
Hey,
up."
some people are colorblind.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Did you hear that mostly men are the ones that are colorblind? That women are way less likely
I
to
think I
get
heard that
colorblind.
as well.
I
Did we
did
talk
hear
about
that.
that the other day?
Yeah, we were talking about that the
all
other
right.
day.
I just had to bring that up. That's so interesting. Yeah. And it's not that women cannot be colorblind, it's just that they're less likely.
Right.
to be colorblind.
Smaller
When I
percentage.
looked into that, I was like, that's not true. It can't be true that all women are not capable of being, you know, colorblind, but it's a possibility.
Very few things in this life are hard yes and no, always or never.
Always
you know?
or never. That's right.
Definitely
That's right. Yeah.
getting
Well,
that one.
Always
One of the
exceptional.
extensions of my philosophies is that the answer to almost all the questions in life, for me, are it depends.
It depends, yeah.
Right? You say, da-da-da-da-da, question, and it's like, it depends. Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Do you like this? Do you hate that? Are we going up? Are we going down? Yeah.
South, left.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
kidding.
All south, forward, back. You know, so it depends, you know. Yeah. What are your values?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's big. That's truth.
A lot of philosophy there.
You never did define what South was, did you?
No, I said yeah.
He clearly skirted the issue.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did, Uncle Mike. Tell me.
Hey, so one of the
Yes,
things
sir.
I think you wanted to talk about was spinning off of our concert.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
That's right.
Bring it back to that.
Yeah,
Because
man.
the energy in that concert, we want to find a way to, well, not manufacture it, but to continue it and multiply it.
To box it, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
carry,
right, man.
carry it forth for future things that we can do together and individually.
It taught me so much doing this concert, you know, about how much work really goes into putting on a function, promoting it, and all the logistics and the community that it takes. And so I couldn't agree more, man. It was so wonderful to see such a well reception of it. And you're right, man. The energy was amazing. You know, I really did want to box it up and encapsulate it in a glass bottle and take it with me to be able to feel that. You know, but.
Well, we can revisit it when we listen to playbacks and things like that. And isn't it interesting at how I have found for me, sometimes when I'm on stage, I'm thinking things sound a certain way, and then when I hear them back, it's not totally different, but it's different than what I perceived on stage, being in the middle of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys experience that as well?
All the time.
Yeah.
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 A lot of times the live concerts that I get to listen back to, especially the ones that I think were the worst, turn out to have the most heart and soul coming from them, you know? And it's surprising. It's like, for whatever mental state I was in during the show, you think about it one way or say, oh man, well that could have been better, or this could have been cooler, or whatever, and then you listen back and it's like, hey, that was way better than what I thought. You
And
know?
even on
It's
my
cool.
CDs, there are times that at the CD, if I hear them right after I've recorded them and stuff, part of it is I've got something in my mind again, just like these record producers do, of what I thought I was doing. You know, and then sometimes a new animal comes out. And at the time, I led it by just natural instinct.
Sure.
Hey, that was the name of my group. Anyway.
I know. I was just
The
going to
natural instinct.
Whoa. So, but what am I getting at is that I would be displeased on my early listen backs. Technically, it was right. This was good. I'm disciplined enough and developed enough and mature enough now that I'm not going to accept a whole bunch of terrible sounding stuff. Having said that, an occasional little looseness here and there, sure, that adds to the soul. All you got to do is listen to Barney Kessel and
Oh,
get
yeah.
that. It's like somebody once said, even his mistakes swing. You know.
Yeah.
So I take that with me. But I'll be listening immediately back, and Sid Fendley, who's done most of my CDs, balance them. He has me listening to stuff and make sure, and I was going to, oh man, I like that. Oh, that one. And then, okay, but what I'm getting at is, I don't listen to them for a long time then. I don't listen to them at all. 3, 4, 5 years later, I'm listening to stuff and I'm saying, oh, I like that. Because I'm not remembering all the stuff that I was putting on it at the time. I was putting some of my own stuff that wasn't necessarily great.
Mental baggage.
Mental baggage on it. That mental baggage is forgotten, and I'm listening to it pure now. I say, oh, all right, I like that.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that space has a lot to do with it.
It's a refresher. I mean, you're allowing yourself to forget, and you're forgetting, and then you're re-listening as if like, oh, I did that. It's like that's not half bad, you know. I definitely have had that similar experience, and not just with something that I recorded in the studio or like a solo that I did or something like that, but compositions. I do that a lot with, you know, where I write something, and not necessarily because I want to put it away, but I'll just, you know, I write down ideas a lot, and it sometimes isn't a song, but sometimes I do sit down and have a whole night of experiences that just leave me full of emotion, full of thoughts. And like you talked about after the show the other day, you said you were wound up. It's going to take you a while to get to come down from this one. And I totally know that feeling from having felt it through a lot of experiential moments in my life that have resulted in me sitting down with my guitar and writing a song. And maybe a song, or maybe a couple songs, or maybe just a couple ideas, you know what I'm saying? And then I came back and listened to a song that I wrote 5 years ago. Just a couple months ago, and I was like, wow, there's some really cool parts in there, you know, there's some parts in there that I can really dig. There's a lot of stuff that of course I wasn't happy with, but you know, to re-listen to something allows you to almost have the capacity to say, oh man, I loved that, I loved this, you know, as opposed to the moment where you said I could do something better.
Right, there's also the honesty to say, well, that part I can improve on there.
That's right.
And I can do that, but the honesty to be able to do that as well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So tell me about the after effects of the concert, Uncle Mike. I have to ask you now: is it something that happens with any big concert? You usually are up for a couple hours afterwards. You can't go to sleep.
Oh well,
right away?
I usually am anyway. Kenny says, "Well, you're not going to sleep," because I usually I was
You're
like,
buzzing.
The program's going through my mind. Usually, whatever the last tune is, you know, strutting. And,
Totally.
Your phrasing on that was awesome. But anyway, but then if I switch gears and I just start humming another tune that we played, then that tune is with me.
Opens up, yeah.
So I said, but my joke was, like I said, I was going to almost text you guys the next day and say, I'm on. Let's see, what's the third tune? I'm on Asia now for about the 6th time in the program, and I'm into the second set, third tune for about the 6th time because I'm still hearing and feeling it without criticism. Actually, just feeling the energy.
That's so cool, man.
Very quick sidestep was the guy that came to my house today that we had a leak in our one of our bathrooms, and he was at the
concert.
Oh, yeah,
cool.
Because his daughters have grown up in our dance school, and he and I take Kathy's tap class, and he's just a sweet, great guy. And he was interested from the beginning. He says, "Oh, I want to come to the concert." Once he saw the thing, and he made it a point.
Cool.
So he came, brought his wife, and I'd never met his wife before. Here's his comment. The two things, and you take these things from different people because they're people. He's a person that is not a musician. So those comments to me are extremely valuable.
Mm-hmm.
They're not analytical.
Mm-hmm.
They're just from
Experiential,
the gut.
yeah.
Experiential. So he said 2 things. He says number one was I'm trying to think about the. 2 things that really struck him is he says once for him, this is how it hit him, is as the evening went by, and I'm going to interpret this, he says it seems like the music got more complex as you guys got wound up. So I'm interpreting that to mean that our energy got raised and raised and raised. That's how I'm interpreting it. You guys, to your own interpretation.
That's
but he
interesting.
says he thought, hey, there was nothing harder than Jaguar.
Yeah, I know, right, yeah.
But then again, we followed it up with Hoedown.
Yeah.
We're pulling
That was hard.
So maybe that's what hit him. So that was comment number 1. Number 2 is he loved the idea that we all had original music involved.
Cool. Very cool.
Those were the 2 things that really got him. Yeah. thought I'd share that.
You know what's funny is like, especially coming out of a youth playing lots of jazz, swing music, cover music of any genre, really any genre, but you're playing other people's songs. One of the most requested things I get is, oh, well, do you write songs? Do you have any of your own stuff? And it's incredible. People really want to hear that.
Yeah.
They want to hear, what do you have to say? Not just on a popular tune, but what do you have to say coming from your well of creativity when you write your music?
From your heart of experience, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most powerful thing. As for me, if I was to be playing a gig and someone was to come up and say that, that's the most flattering thing, right? You know, and you see that a lot in New Orleans because you're in a lot of those experiences. But I mean, to have that experience, at least for me, I don't know for you, Uncle Mike. I mean, I know you incorporate a lot of original music into your sets, anyways. But that experience is like, oh wow, okay, all right. Now you're gonna play something for them and they're gonna listen. You know,
Yeah.
not like you're showing up to the gig and you're playing your original music and no one's listening.
Right,
You know,
right.
Well, for
Just
me,
happen.
it's different genres at different around here. Like I mentioned the other night, a lot of folks think of me as a jazz guitar player, and I wanted that ever since I was young, to be thought of as that.
Mm-hmm.
However, they don't have the idea about my previous life in LA. So a lot of people don't know that I wrote and was trying to produce. It didn't go too far, but it got some interest. I wrote 4 tunes in the style of James Taylor and hired a singer, and I
Wow.
played in that style. I got it someplace. I showed it.
I'd love to
Sure,
hear that.
Yeah,
I
me
don't think
too.
I've ever heard
You
that.
gotta re-release that.
Another time I did just a kind of a pop guitar solo, pop fusion-y, not fusion-y, but pop guitar thing. So I've done those things. I've gone and experienced those spaces, you know, at one point in my life.
That's so cool.
Started writing jazz when I moved here.
Yeah.
You know, all those pop guitar dates, I'm sure you had to spend a lot more money on your hair products and stuff, right?
You know what?
His mustache
Well, a
comb,
lot
right?
of people did, but I had kind of a natural. You saw those early pictures.
Oh yeah, you had the
Natural
natural
fro,
fro,
Kind of a
yeah.
natural fro.
Yeah.
I had guys. I was doing Christian dates with a bunch of these black guys, and they were a black Christian church, or you know, and they were cool guys. I was playing. You know, they called me often for whenever they were doing stuff. But they would tease me. They would go by and they would touch my hand. Oh, and they would make sleazy jokes about, Mike, are you sure?
You're all the time.
I'll leave the rest with you guys. You know? They used to do that to me on the dates all the time.
Oh, that's so
you know.
funny. That's so funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But stepping back to what the original comment was original music, and getting to play original music, and you having that experience of when someone comes up and does that at a gig. How cool is that?
I think it's really cool too when people say, man, I really dug that 3rd song or whatever, the 4th song in the set. What is that? What was that? I think I recognize that. And it was like, well, that was actually one of our originals. And they're going, no way. That's really cool. I had no idea. So I really dug it. And it's like, wow, that for me, that really feels great whenever something like that happens. Or even if it's not my original song, but we're playing the original music of a band that I'm in, and they enjoy that for some reason. It was like, man, there was something different about that. I got into it. It's like, that's cool. That's what we're looking for, you know. And for me, as a young guy, too, I'm 27 years old right now, so I'm trying to think of, like, there's got to be, my dream is to be able to capture people with the music that I write and my friends' music, the original stuff, and to give that a little more breath of life, you know, in the music that we play. And how are you going to do it if you don't put it out there? Right. You got to put it out. So it takes a leap of faith and like a chance. You got to really take the risk of saying, "Oh, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to do this song. It might not be perfect yet, but some person might dig it." And sometimes you hear those comments back, and it's like, man, that's cool.
Brings up the subject of composition, of our inspirations for composition. You know, when people are on TV shows and radio shows and whatever, the question is always, because a person who hasn't had the experience of writing music, and they are a follower or an aficionado, this is all a mystery to them. So what's the question? Do the lyrics come first, or do the music come first? If you're writing lyrics,
Sure.
you know, and the answer is different. all the time.
I think
There are
every time it's different.
every time it's different. And some
me,
people,
yeah.
they have a certain way that they usually go. Some people get a little pattern on the guitar or in the piano, and then they end up building a song around that, and then the lyrics come.
Yep.
Some people have a motivation emotionally with some words that they're able to put into some poetry, and then they go fishing around and find the music that accommodates that mood that they come up. But it's an interesting and ever interesting conversation about composition. And when you write, do you rewrite anything, or is it there right off the bat the first time?
Is it done that way, and you have to keep it that way 10 years later, right?
Yeah. And I've had the experience of both. I've had a few things just flow out of me, and then I've had some things where I've had to craft them a little bit. So we've got to be honest about that. I'm a human being. I just don't, my spirit guide just gave me all of it.
The song all came down to me.
Reality,
Yeah.
And after a while, as you become skilled and experienced in music, there are certain things, I got a germ of an idea, and I'm going to work this a little bit. Well, looking at the two different, icons, Beethoven, who was writing and writing and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting, and Mozart, he couldn't get it down fast enough. He was just writing it down, and there it was.
Right.
So, and these guys were both amazing. They were both icons. So it's all valid.
Yep.
It's all very valid.
That's so right.
One of my tunes, I actually recorded it twice because I did once on my classical guitar. I did a thing on it, and then later on I recorded it in jazz. You know what? I think I recorded it a third time.
Is it that Samba 5?
Yeah.
I was remembering that.
The
yeah.
story on that was a composition lesson for me, and that was I had the germ of the idea right away, and I went into a studio. I was in the studio already, and they had some space and time. I said, well, here, I brought my music with me, and we recorded then what I had then. It wasn't as it is now, as in the final stage, but everybody was loving it, and I wasn't. I liked the germ of the idea, but it wasn't right. It wasn't there, and I had to be honest with myself. So it was a lesson in honesty as well, personal the journey, the personal journey. I heard it back. They recorded it for me. Yeah, cool tune. I got it. So I'm listening. There's something quite not right. I mean, as it was fine, but it wasn't done. There was more, and I didn't know what it was. I ended up going to a friend of mine who was a composer, and he was doing films. He was writing for travelogues. His dad was a producer of these things. He and I played in the jazz band in college. He played alto sax. He eventually was doing this and, working for his dad and working as a composer. I go to him, and he gave me one little nugget that advanced my sense for composition intellectually for the rest of my days. And you guys all know this, but it's like one of those things that's right in front of you, but somebody's got to point it out. So I says, I've got this tune, and I just don't, he didn't help me with the tune. He was really smart this way. He took some other examples, and he just said, okay, what if we have this here? And now I'm going to follow this idea up. And he says, if you just change one little thing, it's a big change. A little change is a big change. And then I started listening. Composers were doing this all the time, rather than it repeating something exactly the same way, which you can do sometimes, especially in certain jazz things and in certain mantra kind of music. But in a given setting where you want to develop more, there's got to be some movement, some change, something other than what the original notes and rhythms are. And he gave me a couple of examples. I'm going to just change this one thing here. Or I'm going to turn around. I want to elongate that, or just make that a little higher, or whatever. And he played for him. Oh my God! So then I went back, and so then it came to me. This was 9 months then or 10 months, almost a year from when I first wrote the first germ of that tune, Samba 5, and then I got it. And then I messed with it. There it was, and then I finished it, and now I was happy, and it was what I wanted to say in the first place. I couldn't find what I wanted to say. I was missing this little piece that he had to point out to me, So just changing one little thing.
Yeah, it's a huge, because
It's
it's
a
a
huge
foundational thing, and
Yeah,
everything that goes on top
I think
of
there was a
there.
psychological setting.
New
Yes,
thing, new flavor.
if you're going to change something, it's got to always be some big change. No, a little change is a big change, and that's what he had to teach me. That was very simple but powerful lesson in music. So I just wanted to share that one.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
That's a tune that I remember listening to as a kid. I was like drawn to that song.
Okay.
So once you said that you had a couple different versions over the years, I was like, I know which one you're talking about.
Okay.
I used to get into that.
Okay. So then I pass it on to you. Has any of your pieces been like that at all, with that kind of experience?
Without a doubt. I mean, all of my songs, I think Uncle Mike, John and I were talking about this when I was just in New Orleans, the writing process. Because, I've been writing, also collaboratively writing a lot with people. But the writing process is obviously, as with everyone, it's different every time. But I have songs on this last album that I put out that I started writing when I was in 8th grade. And it's crazy to think that a song has lived around that long. But what it was first of all, the movement of, one chord, which is this song on my album called Deep Mystical Telepathy. And it's the movement of then this fast part in the song. And the song never, it just always felt like it's one section of a song. And I never was able to pair the other section or have an intro to it or I just could never, resolve the issue of the song. And it wasn't until I had some experiences and, of course, as I said to you, Uncle Mike, this podcast is the internet, so we can say anything we want to here. But I had some psychedelic experiences, and the psychedelic experiences offered me the opportunity via a friend to learn about North Indian classical music. And by learning about North Indian classical music, it opened a window for me creatively, as well as just as an absorber and lover of music and lover of knowledge, anything music, and getting to learn about that, going out there and having the experience of being out there in the school when I went there in 2014, offered me the tools and the piece that glued the whole song together, which is this theme, which is a scale. In North Indian classical music, they have scales. The whole music is based off of scales as opposed to harmony. So there is no chords in the music, and everything is based off of one tone that continues throughout the song. It's played through a tempura, it's a drone, and the scale that goes on top of that. And so the scale that ended up being the thing that glued the song is a major scale going up, but I play 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 1, 9, flat, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3. So the movement of having it be major going up, but skipping on the 3rd scale degree and skipping on the 6th scale degree, and then going up to the 9th and coming down on a flat 7, as well as then playing the 6 and playing the 3 on the way down, was a scale that I learned when I was there. And that scale was what pieced this whole song together. And it was a song that had been in my arsenal at that point it was in my arsenal for about 11 years. And so that experience of writing songs over time isn't just something that's with that song, but was kind of with the majority of the songs. There was really only the experience of sitting down and writing a whole song in one experience, which was a song that I wrote for my little sister. And I did it when I was studying at UNM, and I had the experience of finding out that my sister had been in a car accident and seeing images of the accident the next day when my sister and my mother went to see the car. And I saw the images of her car as I left the lesson with Michael Chapter and was going down to the practice rooms. And I was so taken back by the severity of the accident that she was in and how amazing it was that she walked away with just some whiplash and some marks on her neck, with nothing. I was just in absolute gratitude. And so the name of that song is called For Solomon, and now it's retitled it's retitled Gratitude. But it's a song that sat down. I sat down and I wrote within that whole sitting. And it's a 24-bar tune. But I definitely have that same experience that you're talking about. To make it short, of writing songs over many, many years and allowing the experiences that I have to really kind of gel the things. And sometimes it is someone telling you something that then you go back and adjust something in the tune, and then it kind of like shifts into place, and you say, "This is what I had in mind." Or maybe it is such a crazy experience of going down the rabbit hole of doing some things in life that leads you to some other music that then when you go and study that music, it leads you into some sounds that say, whoa, these sounds now connect this experience that I had 11 years ago. And I finished that song and I put it out on that album. And so have that same experience of song before. What about you, John? You have that experience, I'm sure, with compositions and stuff. I know we've talked about that.
Yeah. I feel like my thing is that I'm an endless tweaker. Like I can go back and tweak
Always
and
adjusting,
retweak
yeah.
I see what you're saying.
everything.
So you're the Beethoven?
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe the mix
I
of
go
both
back and-
Beethoven and Mozart, because both you guys really flow with your compositions, you know, with the stuff you come up with. But this Esperanza was such a beautiful tune, and you wrote it so long ago.
See, but okay, that's a great example. We played that tune of mine just for this concert that we did together, the three of us, but it was on my drive from New Orleans over here to Albuquerque that I thought, you know what, I'm going to tweak that composition real quick. I'm going to add something to the end of that to round it out. And I wrote that back in college, my freshman year of college or something like that.
So it's the same story. We all have the same story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely had a couple of experiences. That one was one where as soon as I sat down, it was like it just came out. And then I started playing. I was like, hey, you know, that's pretty good. Like, let me do something else. Let me see if I like that. Let me see if I can do it twice or 3 times in a row. It's like that's my my personal mantra. Like if I like something, can I repeat it instead of just lose it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I dug it. It was cool then, and then I put it on paper, and then I forgot about it, left it as if it were set in stone. And then, hey, the opportunity to perform this song came up, and I thought I could probably do something cooler with it now. And I really, actually, one of my all-time music heroes, 2 of them actually, and they happen to be best friends, is Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorter. And listening to them talk about composition and reading what they have to say or listening to podcasts with them, they're the same way. Wayne Shorter, I know that he plays completely new arrangements of his songs with his band nowadays that he recorded the first time with Miles Davis in 1964, you know. And it's like, wow, that's so cool. You can breathe new life into something that you once thought was set in stone. Nothing's set in stone. And you can really give new life to a song by looking at it and performing it from another perspective, or new instrumentation, or just a new concept. Yeah, I'm always tweaking. You see my pedals that I have. I'm always turning knobs, and that's how my brain works. So I just go in there.
Les Paul, man.
Always creating.
He's always tinkering. He's a tinkerer.
That's it.
And when
Tinker's better than tweaker.
Mitch Holder gave me his
No other meanings.
when Mitch Holder gave me his phone number and says, don't call him before 9 or 10 o'clock at night, his time, because he takes a nap in the late afternoon, and then he gets up, then he tinkers all night long. He's been an inventor all his life, and even seen him on the stage. He talk about a pedal board. He had stuff. He had all of his guitar. He had all this stuff on his guitar that I'm sure is all him. You push this button to get that sound, push that other button, and then, you know. And he had a ton of buttons and switches on his guitar. Man.
Cool.
And this is Les Paul, the tinkerer, the tweakers. You know. There's a song in here somewhere, guys.
There's a song somewhere in there. Yeah.
Keep an eye out for it.
Tinkering as I tweak.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Oh man, it can exist in a lot of different genres. This song. A lot of audiences can get it. Yeah.
This could be a hit, man. They say you can't please everybody.
But we tinker while we tweak,
we
so
got a song.
we'll get both of them. That's cool. Les Paul, I remember that's another guy that as soon as you introduced me to the man behind the Les Paul model guitar, I thought, wow, what he's doing is so cool.
My first hero.
Right,
When I was 15 years old.
And that got me on a whole different trip because you explaining to me, oh, you hear that really those guitars that are super fast and a couple octaves up higher than everything else in the mix. He recorded those at a quarter of the speed and then sped up the tape to get that in time and to get that sound. And I thought, wow, man, like, you know, the foresight to be able to see the roadmap that far ahead of you and be ready for that is really, really cool. Yeah. And that really influenced me to check him out, number one, but then also to sort of start thinking about music in that way. Like, okay, well, let me think about the product that I want to have in the end. What could I do? How could we get to that idea? And then you start sort of building this imaginary castle, and then figuring out how you're going to actually use the real world tools to get there. Yeah.
Right. Well, the ultimate brilliance of multi-tracking,
Mm.
that Les Paul, he just totally revolutionized the whole recording industry.
Yeah.
And you know that they still have, and then the echo chambers, he was really, into the echo thing. You know about this, that they still have those original echo chambers down in the basement of Capitol Records?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I gotta go. I really want to visit Capitol Studios.
Yeah.
That's one of the most iconic.
So, and I didn't know
places
this for a long time. I only learned about this a few years ago. But because of him, because he recorded on Capitol Records, him and Mary Ford, his wife, and that they built these echo chambers down in the basement, and they've been there all these years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
My goodness, yeah. The guys, the Capitol Records crew too. I mean, just like everything that's come out of there. Obviously, we all know that sound. Even if you didn't know you knew it, you know it because the big lush reverb and just the sound of the room, Beach Boys, Fifth Dimension, all these things that are coming out of Capitol Records. I mean, for me, they left such an impression on me, but the one that really got me in the last few years was the recordings of that man, David Axelrod, that great producer.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know David Axelrod, if you listen to Dr. Dre's da-da-da-da-da, it's Dr. Dre, the D-R-E, right? That song utilizes this song of David Axelrod's called The Edge. Boom, bing, bing, boom, bing, ding, dum, ding, 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 dum, ding, dum. That's a direct sample of this guy's music. And the sound of that guitar and the sound of that orchestra, it was like, man, what's more Capitol Records than this?
Yeah.
I'm dying to go check it out one day.
Yeah.
Got to see it.
That'd be great.
How cool, man.
Hollywood and Vine.
Didn't Uncle Mike didn't Les Paul also create the loop device?
Maybe he did.
I think he might have. Yeah. It's so crazy
How
seeing
about
an
the
inventor
log
like that.
guitar? That was the Folly.
That one's so cool.
The
The
log
big old one
guitar.
that the
Yeah,
bottom piece and the
yeah,
top piece
yeah.
come off of. That one's really cool to see.
That was,
Yeah.
as you talk about the one that got away.
Oh, yeah.
Never manufactured.
Never did anything with that
But
one.
this was his mind. It was going in like several different directions.
It's so cool, man.
I can relate with him a little bit, but he's on another level. Les Paul is one of those engineer, musician geniuses.
Well, that's the thing.
Both sides.
The marriage of
Always.
us. I, to this day, I'll occasionally play one of his. Well, I'll get on a kick and I say, because it brings me back nostalgia, my high school days when I was first hearing him and how I wanted to copy everything he did, and he was my hero. And so I listened to those for that reason, and also I never get tired of those arrangements that he did. He was brilliant at arranging the tunes that he had recorded with Mary Ford.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of hits, of course, How High the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
Yeah.
And then she overdubs her voice. And and his solo, I took his solo, I ripped his solo off and learned it on the guitar. I know I've told you guys this story many times, probably. But when I was in Van Nuys High School and I was a senior there that year, coincidentally, the choir, it wasn't a choir, it was a chorus of about 4 or 5 girls. And the teacher, the choral teacher, they were doing Mary Ford's arrangement of How High the Moon. So I go up there and I say, wow, I learned Les Paul's part on that record. I knew it from beginning to end, and especially the solo. And we ended up performing that for our high school. We of course had to substitute. We didn't have all of the multi stuff, except they had the voices. And, but we just had a piano player, and she was a high school student. And that's another story. Janie Getz was her name. Perfect pitch, into jazz, deep. But she was playing piano for the choral group, okay? So she just played the background rhythm and changes, and I played Les Paul's part, and the girls sang the voices. And not only did we do it for our school, but we went around to several other high schools and performed that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
that ended up being, I got my picture in the yearbook, actually.
Boom.
Yeah, with the holding the guitar.
So was it just the choir, you and the piano player?
Yes.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, the chorus of about 5 girls.
That's
singing.
like it's
was
such an
it.
experience to play alongside a choir, even if it is a small choir or a big choir as just a guitar player.
Right, and Janie Getz was a brilliant she was 16 years old.
Wow.
And she taught me one of my first, she taught me 4.
Oh,
She taught me
really?
4, and
Wow.
and there was another one, Horace Silverton, what is that? That's a B flat blues. Can't think of the name of it.
Doodlin, maybe. I don't know.
No, that doodle, that's different then, yeah. But this was that, what I was just humming to
I
you.
see.
I can't think of what it was now. But she taught me that as a bop line.
Wow.
And so she was like my first real connection with somebody that can play jazz, and she was 16 years old.
Wow.
Perfect pitch, and get this. Sorry to continue the long story,
Ah.
but
This is what this is
I
for.
run into her after the first summer when I'm going to college, and she comes in to sit in with the college band. And I don't see her all summer long. Now I'm going to college, and I run, hey Janie, how you doing? Oh, yeah, fine. What have you been doing, Janie? She said, oh, I've been on the road with Art Pepper.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
This is 16-year-old Janie Getz.
Wow.
So that's where she was at.
How cool, man.
Yeah.
And she continued being a player on the scene and stuff,
Yeah.
in LA, right?
Oh, yeah. She
That's so
lives in
cool.
LA now all these years. I think she lived in New York for a number of years, and now she lives in LA. Ran into her once or twice. She played at the Outpost once or twice over the years.
Wow.
Cool.
And Janie, it's me. She blew me off. she was just playing with the group there, the guitar players group or something like that, and they had a kind of a fusion-y thing going. But she wasn't as excited as I was. Remember, we played the high school. Hey, yeah, nice to see you. Some people are like that,
Yeah.
But I never forgot. She was still an influence on me. She was just brilliant.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like they were scooping up all the talented kids in LA when 16.
Yeah,
Y'all were
no
going on the
kidding.
road. Huh?
Going to the road to the studio, right?
Yeah.
Jeez, that's so cool. It's cool too. Like, we didn't have that experience growing up, in the 90s here in New Mexico. There's no recording scene or anything like that. That ship had sailed by the time, Claudio, you and I were hearing about the golden days and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But we did have our experiences that, for me, I treasured those when someone would say, hey, come out, we're doing a recording session over here. And it didn't matter if it was in a closet. It
Well,
was like,
those were the best. That was just
that's
like,
the big time. I've been hearing all these stories from you, but it was like, oh, okay, well, we're wrapping a bandana around the mic for a filter. Okay, that's cool. That's good, but it was cool. I was
That's
like,
great
it was
stuff.
so exciting.
I remember they'd be in garages as we're sitting in right now. But they'd be in a garage that was filled with, like all the sound foam and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't put an air conditioner in there because they couldn't get the recording, so it would be burning hot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So quick, I remembered.
Yeah.
Opus de Funk.
Oh,
was
that
tune?
Horace Silver.
Horace
Nice.
Silver. People. Anyway, I just remembered.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
She
Horace
taught it
Silver.
to me.
He's one of those guys too that his compositions are incredible.
Oh,
What a masterful,
yeah.
masterful writer.
Yeah. A master, very much. My recent thing that I've been trying to learn by him, which doesn't play that easy on the guitar, is it's named after himself. Well, here it's going to come back later again. Anyway, Glenn likes to play it very fast on the baritone. Quicksilver.
Quicksilver.
Yeah, I know Quicksilver. I
And
did
it's
that with him.
based on the old standard, which I know well, and we played in the Jolly Christian group we had. The old standard, Lover Come Back to Me, it's based on those changes.
You gotta. I know he writes some stuff. Like, you gotta be ready for it.
He was very, very fluent, yeah.
It's incredible.
So, Uncle Mike, let me ask you, my man, what are you up to nowadays? I know you're about to go to LA. You're going to be, this is pre-recorded, obviously, but this is going to come out around the time that you're going to be in Los Angeles. I know you're going to play
okay.
John Pisano's guitar night there.
Right, so next Tuesday I'll be playing out there.
Awesome.
I don't know who he's got for a rhythm section for me yet, but there's always somebody wonderful out there. And 2 years ago, I actually had the bass player and the drummer that played on Joe Pass's For Django.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that was
What a treat.
Colin Bailey played drums, and I ran into him in California after many, many, many years, and Jim Huard on bass. Those are the guys that play drums and bass regularly, on most of his records.
That's so
and John
cool.
Pisano ended up playing accompanying guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So they played for me 2 years ago. And I was like, whoa, what a reunion this is, you know.
Yeah.
That was awesome. So I've asked for him to, he didn't let me know. I requested this year, because there's so many guys, and I usually don't like to bother him, but I said, hey, I haven't seen Chuck Burkhoff in a long time. If you can, you know, if you just ask him, see if he might be available on the night I'm out there, that would be wonderful. He's the one that we played the Carol Burnett show together, and there's the whole quirky,
Wow.
the whole wacky story about Barney Miller's theme. Boom, 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 boom.
I'm not familiar.
Okay,
Please tell us.
It's in that magazine article.
Oh, the vintage
yes,
guitar
that one.
writer.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in there.
See,
I don't wanna-
that's how I know the story better than I know the theme.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, and everybody was playing it for a while, because when that show was on, every bass player knew it. Guitar players were playing it, you know. And I ripped it off a James Taylor record. Is what. Long story short, the story. You can YouTube this, guys. It's out there, and you're gonna laugh. Well, if you don't know the theme, it won't hit you that much. To make the connection.
So what's the theme? The name of the theme is Barney. What is it?
Well, the theme from the TV show was the Barney Miller theme.
The Barney Miller theme.
It was the Barney Miller show. It was a comedy show for half hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then what was
well,
the-
I ripped it off a James Taylor record. The tune was called "Rock and Roll Is Music." James Taylor. I think it was the last cut on. It was on an LP that I had. The name of the whole LP, which I loved, I used to play myself to sleep with. It was called "Walking Man."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
You've heard of that?
Of
Yeah.
James
The
Taylor.
last, it's either last or next to last. Walking Man is music. It doesn't happen. It's the riff at the end of the whole tune. Rock and roll is music. Boom. And rock and roll. It's the tag on the end. It's the
Have fun.
yeah.
Okay.
They get into grooving on it. And I got it and I said, oh, what's that? I'm listening to the whole tune. That's so cool. And I got up and I quickly kind of ripped it off, kind of sloppily. And then we'd end up playing it on the Burnett show. Pete Matz, who was the conductor of the Carol Burnett show, would say, hey, Mike, start some. We would play Dixieland, band arrangements. We would call standards. Everybody played, and every now and then he'd want to do different things. So he'd say, hey, Mike, start something. So I would start with that, because I ripped it up. So we would do that, and eventually Chuck says to me, he says, hey, Mike, show me that so that I can double you. I show it to him. So here goes the whole story. So then one night I show up we did Thursday night pre-record and Friday all day. We did dress rehearsal in the morning and then 2 tapings in the afternoon and evening. So I show up Thursday night, I'm checking everything out. Chuck shows up and he looks, something is wrong. He looks very disheveled. And I said, Chuck, what's wrong? He says, oh man. He says, I hope that they don't get sued. Yeah. He says, I went to play this pilot for a new show, and it's called the Barney Miller Show. Now, this is before the show. It was on for I don't know how many years, but a good few years after that, so it became history. He says, and what happened was they had a part written for me to open up solo. It was written out, and they didn't like it. So the producer, he comes on, he says, I wrote that bass part out, Chuck. He says, I don't like it. He says, I'll tell you what, you just play what you feel. And I'm sure anything you play would be better than what I wrote. So he was one of those kind of composers. Mm-hmm. So I left it to Chuck, and Chuck just drew a blank. He says, all I could think of was that stupid riff you showed. And he played it, and the rest is history. It became the Barney Miller thing. But it came from rock and roll music, James Taylor.
Wow.
So,
Dang.
That is so funny.
that's wacky.
That is so funny.
And he gives me credit because they wrote about it in the article, and Jim Carlton, who wrote the article, called Chuck to verify. He says, Chuck, Mike says that he taught you that, because they all know that Chuck played that.
Uh-huh.
He's also the same guy that played These Boots Are Made for Walking. That's Chuck Burkhoff.
How cool.
And he played on most of Howard's records. So anyway, but, so Chuck says, yeah, Mike taught me that. So he verified that whole thing.
So it's Mike's fault.
It's my fault.
At the end of the day.
I'm all sued.
Wow. What a trip.
What a story, man. We're gonna do many more of these, Uncle Mike. I'm gonna get at least a couple more out of
This
you,
is
man.
cool because it's so
you got many
natural.
stories to
You
share.
guys
I know,
are,
man.
you know.
Yeah.
It's wonderful hearing about them, man. And it's so cool that you have such a firsthand experience with these people growing up, falling in love with Les Paul, and growing up, listening to so many of these greats as they were coming about and getting to play with people.
Oh yeah, and when I
man.
finally got to meet Les Paul, finally, and he invited me to sit in with him. I got to sit back. It was actually Howard Alden.
That's right. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Howard connected me with the rhythm section, and they came up to me and says, "Are you Mike?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Hang in there. We'll get you back in the green room." So they did. All I wanted to wrap up with this was the first thing that Les says to me is, "I hear you're an LA studio player," and I says, "Yeah, I am." He says, "Do you know Bob Bain?"
Oh, it's like
Wow.
opens up
Yeah,
the whole
so it's
door.
like the whole thing. So I could do no wrong after that. Yeah, I'm in touch with him all the time. He and Bob Bain were buds.
Wow.
They were on staff at NBC in Burbank, 1950.
Wow.
I didn't know that Les Paul ever lived in California.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
That's
Do
amazing.
you know Bob Bain?
Of course.
If you want to mean anything to me, you should know Bob Bain.
Damn.
So, yeah,
That's so
that was
cool.
great stuff.
That's amazing.
So Uncle Mike, just to wrap up that question that I'd asked you. So I know you're going to LA. You're going to be in LA when
Oh,
this
I'm
comes
sorry.
out. No, it's all right.
Yeah,
I know you'll probably already have played that Tuesday. So what else have you got coming up in the summertime or in August? I know you're going to be playing a couple shows here and there with AJO and
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm light. I'm happily light.
Wonderful, man.
Happily light. We do the first Tuesday of every month at Cooperage.
At the Cooperage. Yeah.
And I have a couple of other things, a couple of other gigs. One with Maud and Rodolfo, a couple of things with them.
Wonderful, man.
And there was something else that came up. Oh yeah, something at Papado's, I think,
Nice.
in September.
And that's the first, AJO plays the first Tuesday?
The first
Of
Tuesday
every month?
at
Nice.
Cooperage.
And that's donations,
That's
right?
donations.
How cool,
yeah.
man.
That's
I'm sure you guys fill that out all the time, right?
Yeah, it has a great following, especially since
When
he
Hillary
added
comes,
Hillary.
right? Yeah, I was going to say.
Hillary, why isn't she a celebrity?
Yeah, Hillary is a
Right.
celebrity in
She's just such a
town. Yeah.
natural
Yeah.
talent, a natural gift.
She's amazing.
She's got some pipes on her.
Oh yeah.
And her
Some of my
daughter
favorite
Lyric
kids.
is following in her
Oh, yeah.
footsteps.
Oh yeah, amazing
Yeah.
singer as well. Yeah, some of my favorite gigs have been with Hillary. That's what I was gonna say.
That's
with
great.
singers in town. I mean, I love playing with a lot of singers in town,
Sure.
but Hillary's such a treat because it's like the few gigs I did with her were just duo, and so it's like
Right.
she's got
I've
such
done
this.
a few of those with her.
Yeah, she's
Wow.
got such this amazing voice that just carries a band, a blues band, carries a whole big band now recently, right over the past couple of years or however long it's been happening. But to play in that intimate setting and just to get that those intimate songs as well as just that, I'm really holding down the band's job here, and you really feel it. You feel the pressure. Yeah. But anyways, Jono, tell me what you're going to be up to, my man. I know you're going to be here in New Mexico for a month. You got a show coming up in August at the Outpost. I know you're going to be playing
Yeah.
Summerfest as well, the 21st.
Yep, I'll be doing a few shows here in New Mexico. You and I get to play on a lot of
It's
these
gonna be awesome.
great dates together, so
That's
I'm
right.
excited to play with you. 21st of July, my band Juan Tigre will be playing at the Nob Hill Summerfest at 7:30 p.m. Then I'm playing with Hakeem Bellamy a couple of shows. He's the director of cultural affairs here for the city of Albuquerque and a great, talented MC and poet. So we're playing July 24th in the Santa Fe at the Gazebo, opening up for Hillary Smith and the Albuquerque Jazz Orchestra.
Awesome.
And then we'll be playing at the Outpost on August 2nd. Then after, August 4th, I'll be taking off to ride solo cholo in my car out to the West Coast. I'm going to go to LA and San Francisco, try and book a date over at
San
Capitol
Fran.
Records to go explore the studio and say hey and just pay my
My favorite
respects.
city, San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
I just love it.
I've never been, so this will be my first
I'm
time.
gonna love it.
And I'm going to try and make my way north all the way up to Seattle and Portland,
So
visit some
now, what
friends.
date are you leaving here?
I'll leave here August 5th.
Good.
I just got to
So
be
I've
back
got
in.
about a week. We got about a week to get one more in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yes.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be
Yeah,
great.
we got some filming to do and all kinds of stuff. So.
Sure.
I just have to be back in New Orleans for September. So really, what happens in
That's
the
great. You
interim?
created that space for yourself.
Yeah, I just gotta commit to it, and make sure the car makes it there and back. That's all.
Is Juan Tigre, is it the guys you got going here, or are they coming out from New Orleans?
It'll be the guys I have here, and I'm lucky to have such
Sure.
talented people here in
Right,
Albuquerque
that's
to
great.
play with.
Sure.
Arthur Metters on bass and Paul Palmer III on drums, and the guys back in New Orleans who are regularly part of the band are also busy sidemen. So they're out touring and traveling the world as we speak. And when we hook back up in New Orleans, we'll get it back rolling.
That's great.
Go into the studio this fall.
Yeah, you asked one more thing in September that's brewing, and that is a concert with the MA Trio at a church series.
Oh, wonderful!
Great.
A Sunday church.
Is that what the Center of Spiritual Living does, or who
No,
does that?
this is a different one. It's a St. John's UMC.
Oh yeah. Is that through John Costa up in Santa Fe, or who's that through?
No, that's right here. It's actually not far from my house. I think
Oh,
it's on
nice.
it's on Alvarado Boulevard or something like that.
Wonderful.
But
man.
anyway, they do it. They do a series. He just emailed me just the other day.
Oh, nice.
Says, hey,
man.
would you be interested in doing a little concert for us?
sounds great.
And
One
they
more
do
time.
it free to the public.
What was the name of that church?
It's the St. John's Universal Methodist Christian Church. I
Nice.
guess, isn't it? Yes.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to decode. But, yeah. So
Awesome,
he says,
man.
we got to September 9th.
Nice,
Would
man.
you like to do something for us?
I hope I can be around to hear that. Sounds
So
like
that'd
that'd
be
be awesome.
So anyway.
Do you still call your trio the Natural Instinct Trio, or not
Well,
anymore?
I just call it the
The
Michael
MA
Anthony-
Trio.
Well, MA Trio.
It's also
Michael
funny
Anthony Trio now.
that it's the MA Trio, but then if you use the initials of your two bandmates, it's also M&A if you use it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Milo and Andy.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Cool.
Wow, I never thought of that. That's
really?
crazy.
Yeah, I was thinking about it the other day.
They're wild.
When I saw
Yeah.
something about MA Trio, I was like,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
cool.
you
It's
know-
double meaning there.
Well,
Yeah.
the Natural Instincts was the earlier recordings.
With Dave Parlato, right?
Yeah, and
right,
then it
right.
was Michael Anthony. Now, the last two albums were an accident. That's another whole long story, but that we did at KUNM.
Nice.
And
Right.
that was Cal and Michael Glenn. Cal
Right.
Hayes and Michael Glenn.
Right.
So we called that the First Take Trio.
That I
Because
do
we
remember
went
that.
in, we just rolled the tape. I was filling in for Arlen, who happened to be sick that day.
Wow.
Mark was wanting, our Mark's archives.
Yes.
We call him Archival Man. He don't like that. He is. He's an archival guy.
Yeah, he
You
is.
should say, have you ever been in his house?
Yes, sir, I have. Yeah.
Those CDs.
Oh my God,
there.
everywhere.
My God. He pulls out CDs that I don't even know I played on.
Yeah,
He said,
how
"Oh,
cool
this
is that?"
man, this is Bud Shank. Look at your name. You and Dennis Buttermer played on. He knows
cool.
stuff I don't know.
Wow.
That was
So-
that was one of my favorite parts about going on Thursdays to the Outpost was getting to run into him because he always had his stash of CDs from his
Yeah.
show that day.
Yeah.
I always grab one and get to listen to it.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Mark's such a
Yeah,
That
so we
sounds
called
bad,
those the Natural Instinct. No, we called
First
those
Take Trio.
First Take Trio, and we did two of those, and the
Nice.
last one I dedicated to Howard.
and you did release those, right?
Yeah, they're
Beautiful. They're out and about, yeah.
They're released on
the
Bubble
last
Bath
one-
Records.
Bubble Bath
We did
Records.
The 10th one, it's the dedicated to HR, and I recorded recollections of HR on there. My original
Awesome,
one,
man.
yeah.
You can find all of that stuff as well as my album. You can find all of that on bubblebathrecords.com.
Everywhere that music is sold or streamed
right.
digitally.
That's right.
That's great, man.
Moving into the 21st
You're
century.
amazing. That's just.
Got to, man.
You are.
All by you guys.
You're a
Thank you
pace
for
setter, John. You're a pace setter.
thanks for believing in this idea and
Absolutely,
Oh, man,
man.
we're
hopping on
down.
board.
We're down for it.
And speaking of that idea, man, what else is Bubble Bath Records going to be up to in the next couple of months? I know you said you have remind people again about the Kickstarter you're about to start, right?
Yep, in a week we launched the Kickstarter.
And it'll be going until, do you know about how long? About a month or something
Yeah,
like that?
well, I believe we're dropping it on releasing the campaign on July 18th, and it'll go for a month till August 18th.
So it'll already be out and happening when people hear this podcast. You can definitely go look for that and be sure to support that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we'll
It's-
have the link in the podcast description so you can check
Oh,
it
yeah.
out.
We'll have all that information for you guys.
Then, we have 10 artists that have new albums coming out this fall, so
Wow.
you're going to hear a lot from us. And they're all different genres. They're all from jazz to grunge rock to singer-songwriter,
Grunge
folk,
rock.
acoustic.
Isn't that cool, man?
I've never heard
Trench.
of that
I
one.
love
Trench
that.
is the band,
Awesome.
yeah.
Wow.
It's kind of in the vein of like Nirvana, Alice in Chains type of things.
Yeah.
And then we have electronic music coming out from our
Wow.
guy Cliff.
Hines, yeah.
That's
who you know?
awesome.
And we have some really cool music coming out by this band Nebula Rosa, which
Oh,
is
one
like
of my favorites,
singer-songwriter Latino rock
Yeah.
kind of stuff. and all kinds of music.
I know
So
Bubble Bath just also had Jams come out by Greg Agee. A wonderful album. I
Yeah.
love that, man.
Yeah,
It's so
Gregory
cool.
Agee is our clarinetist, and he plays with Delphio Marsalis Band. He's playing with the Marsalis Family Band. He's always doing great, great things around New Orleans and for his own music. He's an incredible clarinetist.
So a technical
Just came out.
question about recording for Bubble Bath,
Sure.
and that is, I would imagine people come from, are recording from all places, like I'm here, you guys are in New Orleans, do they have to come to New Orleans to record, or do they do their recordings and they filter it?
That's correct. They can do their recordings. The artists
Wherever
can
they
do
are.
their recordings wherever they are. We just have a certain standard of recording that the nuts and bolts of how the recording is done needs to be done a certain way.
Sure.
Needs to be up to a certain sample rate. When we get the actual tracks, we have to make sure everything is encoded correctly. But that's one of the cool parts about the label is that we give the artists the freedom creatively to do whatever they want to do.
And then you guys can shape it technically the way, according to your.
We just, we have a couple of standards of
That's
doing
what I
it.
mean.
You know what I
according
mean?
to your-
So
yeah.
we don't want to. If you record an album in your garage and it's the sound and that's really what you're going for, have a conversation with us. We'll talk about it and see if that's really if that's what you want to do artistically. That's great. We can make that happen. If you want to present this very professional thing that is done in the garage, that's just because that's how you did it that day, and that's
Lonely Bull.
The last thought was, let's record something. That was the beginning and the end of it. Maybe we need to have a different conversation about that.
Yeah.
But we give everybody the option to do it how they want it and how you see fit. But it just has to meet a certain standard of technical specification for it to go out online everywhere.
Okay. Lonely Bull.
Wow.
Does that ring a bell with you guys
No.
at all?
No.
Herb Alpert. That was his first hit, and it was in his garage.
Really?
Wow.
You can check it out. Check it out. It's
Yeah.
iconic. It's one of the early hits. And then the Tijuana Brass came out of that, and then eventually it all mushroomed, and then it became Alpert and Moss Records, A&M Records.
Right.
Huge building that we all recorded at. But he started in his garage, right? How about Les Paul and Mary Ford in the garage?
Yeah.
All that stuff. He played bass and drums.
That's so
Played
awesome.
everything.
But that's the thing is you don't have to be at a multi-million-dollar recording studio to
but
make great
those
art.
were the early days. Of course, they refined from there.
Mhm.
That was the early stages. But they had hits.
Oh yeah.
That's a whole story about Lonely Bull, about that too, because nobody was interested.
Oh,
Herb
really?
Alpert, yeah. So check out Lonely Bull.
I have to check that out.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you'll find it easy.
It's one of the things about having a record label nowadays in 2018 where everybody who has the connection or the access to an internet connection can then upload their own music online and get it out there. Also, in 2018, with a smartphone, everyone has a microphone and an option to record. So you can record your own music at home, on your phone, on your computer, and upload it and get it out there all from the same place. With so many people doing that, it becomes a question of how to cut through the noise, right? So that's where Bubble Bath Records comes in. We try to give all of these people who are doing something different sort of like a chance to get noticed by being part of the community instead of being like just another guy on a bar graph trying to get their thing out there. We have the strength in the numbers. And we try to have a reputable product, We don't want to put out stuff that doesn't sound good,
Of course.
technically. But
Yeah.
you can make it in a garage. It just got to sound good. It got to have the
Yeah, it's
spark
gotta
in
sound-
it,
yeah.
It's
right?
got to be a good garage.
It's got-
And that was the early days. Again, everybody got refined from that point.
Mhm.
So having said that, we want to think about the possibility of following through on recording the 300.
Absolutely.
We're going to make it happen.
That's going to be a reality
A
that
lot of-
we make happen.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of
I
opportunities.
mean, I know that's something that we'll all be proud of.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah.
And we'll take forever. Yeah. Guys, this has been awesome.
Thank
you
you.
for
Really
having
honored
us.
to have you guys
Thank you
on
very
here.
much.
On Art
Yeah.
Talk Music.
That's
awesome.
right. That's right. Yeah.
So you're going to stream this? I'm in the dark.
So we're not streaming this, Uncle Mike, yet. Eventually, this podcast, as people are listening out there, is going to be streamed live. And people can watch it on YouTube when all that comes to fruition. But at the moment, and at least probably for about the first 10 to 15 episodes, they're all going to be pre-recorded. And that just allows me the opportunity to record it. And
So then this gets played somehow.
absolutely, it's going to get released within the next week or two.
Yeah.
And so
where does it go? I mean,
everywhere where people can listen to podcasts, which is
okay. Oh,
there's
you
an
just-
app on your
you
phone
tune in.
called
Oh,
Podcasts.
I see.
Yeah, and so you go to the iTunes store, you go to the search site on that, and then Androids have other means of absolutely checking that out. Through either SoundCloud or through even Spotify nowadays has some of those podcasts being streamed through there. So there's a lot of ways that people will definitely get to check this out, but it'll be on the internet, and people will be able to hear from all around the world. So
Wonderful. This has been wonderful.
thank you guys so much again for coming, and we look forward to the next one. We'll definitely have another one
Okay.
down the future. Okay, guys?
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Very
Claudio.
fun.
Thank you for now.
That was the episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, I encourage you to subscribe, like, share this episode or this podcast with anyone that you think might enjoy it. I'm going to end this podcast with a track, one of my favorites from Michael Anthony's album called Nostalgia. Please enjoy this song called But Beautiful.